We should envision you're on an exciting ride. The sun blinds your eyes. The breeze is in front of you, and you hear different travelers giggling marvelous. Right when you fall, the adrenaline races through your blood, and you feel blissful, however, out of nowhere rather than cheerful after there are yells of dread. Seconds ago, not too far off before your eyes, a traveler sped out of their seat during a sharp divert and tumbled from a level of 2 or 3 dozen meters. You don't really accept that this can happen. Consider the possibility that I let you know that much more regrettable things have occurred in entertainment meccas. Furthermore, a long history of their reality. On Spring 24, 2022, 14-year-old Tyree Sampson went with his football crew on vacation to Cymbal Park in Orlando, USA. There, the young men chose to go for a ride on Orlando Drop, the world's tallest unattached drop tower, which was 131 meters tall. Yet a normal free day transformed into a misfortune when the portable piece of the ride got to the highest point of the pinnacle and began falling. Tyree got out of his seat and stirred things up around town. The 8th grader passed on the spot, as per the legal master report. The main source of Sampson's passing was an error with respect to a recreation area representative. As it turned out, the fast drop ride administrator had slackened the seat strap on Sampson's seat. It had likely been finished during the ride send-off to oblige clients, weighing more than 130 kilograms. The examination showed that Sampson's seat strap was 2 times as free as important. As a result of this, the kid dropped out of his seat during the ride after Sampson's passing Orlando Drop and a nearby ride, Orlando Slingshot, were shut until additional notification. The organization Orlando Slingshot, which had planned the ride, said something that broadcasted the organization's choice to pull out this model from creation after the kid's demise in Cymbal Park. A social equality lawyer, Ben Crump, who addresses Sampson's dad, has alluded to this choice as very much past due. Amusement stops. Their parent organizations and administrative offices should improve to keep this sort of misfortune from happening to some other family, he said in an assertion. Yet unfortunately, this isn't whenever such a misfortune first has occurred in the U.S. On July 9, 2011, James Hackemer, an Iraq War veteran, kicked the bucket in a shocking, exciting ride mishap at the Darien Lake Event Congregation in the north of New York. 3 years before that, in spring of 2008, Hackemer was serving in Iraq when his vehicle hit a stopgap dangerous gadget. Subsequently, the man supported a few wounds, including the removal of the 2 legs, when Hackemer communicated the wish to go on a thrill ride at Darien Lake. Park representatives couldn't get a seat strap on him due to this. The man was placed in the main mentor with the clarification that he would have the option to clutch the boundary before him with his hands, and on the grounds that he had no seat strap during one of the turns, the man was heaved out of the seat on the right of steel napkin, which was moving at 80 kilometers each hour. Hackemer was at the recreation area with his youngsters and sister. However, fortunately, his kids weren't around at the hour of the misfortune. Rather, Hackemer was joined by his nephew Ashton. Lufrid Ashton said the recreation area representatives didn't have a problem with the debilitated veterans, wished to ride the exciting ride, and posed no inquiries. Not entirely settled to ride each thrill ride, his sister Jody Hackemer let the related press know that minute he was on that ride, he likely felt the most joyful and most typical he's felt in 3.5 years. State examiners controlled an administrator's error as the reason for the misfortune, and the ride was back in activity that very year. However, at times you don't for even a moment have to purchase an exciting ride pass to get a destructive physical issue. Simply standing close by can be sufficient. In 2015, a young person was executed on a thrill ride after he got around certain walls and entered a taboo zone. This horrendous mishap occurred at the 6 Banners over Georgia Park. 17-year-old Asia Lashon Ferguson from Springfield moved past 2-meter-tall walls overlooking the signs that cautioned of the area ahead being a risky prohibited zone. Probably the kid was attempting to get his cap which fell off his head while he was on a ride. However, a few observers say he needed to trick the travelers of the ride by snatching somebody's foot when the mentor would be disregarding his head. The kid got a dangerous blow very quickly in the wake of getting under the roller liner. The foot of one of the travelers who sat in a mentor, moving at 80 kilometers each hour, hit the kid on the head. This blow promptly executed him. The police guaranteed the kid's demise to be a mishap. 6 banners chose to recognize the Ferguson family by shutting the exciting ride upon the arrival of the misfortune. Yet the following day, the napkin kept on giving rides to cheerful guests of the recreation area. Yet that wasn't the main mishap at the 6 Banners network. 2 years before, in 2013, Rosie Esparza was destroyed while riding the Texas Goliath exciting ride at 6 Banners over Texas Carnival. Even before the start of the ride, the lady communicated worry over her seat straps. After she got on the liner, an administrator guaranteed her they were appropriately gotten, and the exciting ride began its deadly excursion. When the mentor made a sharp turn, Esparza's seat straps released, and the lady was flung 23 meters up high. Just before the eyes of her frightened girl, her somewhat torn body was tracked down, folded over a pivot on the top of the honky-tonk burrow. Following the episode, the police sent off an examination, yet after 2 months, the ride continued activity after restrainers, and new seat straps were introduced to the extent that family sued 6 Banners and Gersblum, the exciting ride maker. As a response, the recreation area and Gerstlauer sued each other in regards to the obligation. Regarding the mishap, ultimately the two organizations agreed with the casualty's family. Yet mishaps don't necessarily occur on costly rides. At times a basic net is sufficient. 12-year-old Tegan Marty saw a maximum speed exciting ride on a digital television program. Anxious to pull off the act of pure trust, a retrogressive tumble from a level herself, the young lady convinced her folks to take her to outrageous World Experience Park in Wisconsin Dells. The fam just drove the entire way to the recreation area from their home in Florida, just to let youthful Tegan satisfy her fantasy. This is the way the ride worked. The members were hurled from a level of in excess of 30 meters, that is from around 9 stories high, into a net, with no seat straps at all. Remaining in line for the Superworld ride, the young lady's mom, Julie Marty, perceived the right administrator. He was the individual who had commended the alleged security of maximum speed on a television program, despite the fact that the ride had no seat straps or wraps, and individuals just fell into the net from an extraordinary level. In the photos taken before the horrendous mishap happened to Tegan, the young lady is radiating with a wide grin. It was currently Tegan's turn. Her dad turned on the camera, and her mom was restlessly watching from down beneath. The young lady got to the main 30 meters over the ground and bounced, and afterward, something awful happened. Tegan fell right onto the substantial. The administrator erroneously let go of her before the well-being net was introduced. Underneath, the young lady broke her spine and pelvis and got head injury and various grave wounds. The young lady was taken to the clinic, and for quite a while she stayed on a ventilator, in a stable however basic condition. The specialist said she had mind-enlarging various grave cracks of the spine and the pelvis and gash of the liver, spleen, and entrails. They said Tegan could stay deadened perpetually. The young lady, who won a merited spot in the Public Junior Honor Society with her extraordinary grades, could now just impart by squinting once for, indeed, 2 times for no quick forward. 17 months, 14-year-old Tegan was back in the territory of Wisconsin again to advance the task of extending the medical clinic, which had saved her life. The young lady strolled through the lobby without help from anyone else, involving just a walker. For help, the ride administrator, 33-year-old Charles A. Carnell, was accused of first-degree foolish injury, a wrongdoing deserving of 25 years in jail, and a $100,000 fine. Carnell told the examiners he had blanked out and hadn't hung tight for the all-unmistakable sign. Prior to relinquishing Tegan, however, at times mishaps occur because of the proprietor's craving to get a good deal on the guest's well-being. On December 24, 1998, an enormous metal fitting segregated from the structure of a ride called Cruising Transport Columbia on the manner in which down it hit 2 park guests and 1 Disney worker. One of the guests, 33-year-old Luann Feed Dawson, who had supported a head injury in the mishap, later kicked the bucket in the trauma center. This was the principal passing at a Disneyland ride that wasn't the guest's shortcoming. Luann got 2 grave head wounds and a physical issue of an enormous vein in the mind. His significant other Lu Wong likewise supported head injury. Yet endure, Mrs. Wong got plastic medical procedure to sew the cuts on the right half of her face. A Disneyland worker, Christine Woodworker, had a serious leg injury, yet sought appropriate clinic treatment, as displayed in additional examination. The lash which should hold the metal projection setup had been supplanted with a rope produced using unsatisfactory material to set aside cash, separated from that, the boat's way to deal with. The dock was too quick, and the rope which was utilized, rather than a lash, wasn't sufficiently able to dial back the vessel's development obligation. Regarding the mishap was credited not to the ride administrator, but rather to the recreation area that board the casualties' family circumvented $25 million. In court, the Columbia brave remaining parts of activity. Right up till now, the unimaginable level of exciting rides stay the focal component of such rides, but at the same time that makes them hazardous. On July 11, 2010, 21-year-old Lindsay Zeno visited Blue Strait Water Park. Zeno got on a ride called Outrageous Napkin, a thrill ride that had been in activity for around 3 years. Minutes into her ride, the young lady tumbled from a level of 9 meters and ultimately passed on from injury support. We didn't know precisely exact thing caused the mishap. It might have occurred because of a flawed seat strap component. One of the observers claims he saw Zeno attempt to get her seat strap when the mentor made a sharp transform and flung her very high. Louisiana State Fire Marshal Butch Cooking sent controllers from his specialty to really look at the thrill ride. As per him, the mechanical pieces of the napkin were all in their place and without shortcoming in any case. After the mishap, the ride was shut everlastingly. On August 11, 1996, a smaller than expected train at Old Indiana Fun Park was wrecked and turned over, pounding 2 individuals with its weight. The casualties were a 4-year-old Emily Chase, who got deadened starting from the chest, and her 57-year-old grandmother Nancy Jones. This horrendous calamity causes your hair to stand on end, as well as goals. Unimaginable displeasure at Old Indiana Fun Park agents, since they have committed every error under the sun. Examination showed that the train was moving a lot quicker than the task speed of 19 kilometers each hour. When the administrator attempted to raise a ruckus around town, they didn't work. It's as yet hazy whether they had been harmed or weren't there by any means. Additionally, most enemy of wrecking gadgets had not been introduced. The speedometer was broken, and the tracks were flung with litter. Later it became known that the well-being controller, who had checked the ride 2 times 3 months before the mishap, conceded he wasn't equipped for this occupation. Even the recreation area zone records demonstrated that the smaller than expected train had been wrecked multiple times in the past 2 months. This wasn't the principal issue. With Old Indiana in 1996, the recreation area was fined for 77 occurrences of overstepping the law against youngster work. There were likewise materials in the Indianapolis Star about the harsh treatment of creatures, including a tiger. The proprietors of Old Indiana Fun Park conceded carelessness, however denied them data about the ride's condition before the mishap. From that point forward, they defaulted on some loans, and most rides in the recreation area were sold at a sale the next year, and this next thrill ride mishap turned into the deadliest in history. The declaration of fear on a young lady's face before her passing will continuously stay in Carolyn Adamshick's memory. The young lady was one of the kids who kicked the bucket in the disaster at Battersea Park in 1972. Carolyn was a 14-year-old student when the misfortune happened. The enormous scoop ride in South London broke while working, killing 5 young kids. Carolyn was sufficiently fortunate to endure wooden exciting rides, have the standing of possibly lethal snares. They wear out rapidly and require consistent upkeep. Even the smallest carelessness can prompt an enormous fiasco. When the train was being lifted to the beginning of the ride, its haulage rope loosened up from one of the carriages and the instrument separated. The wooden train was going over the recreation area with 31 travelers on board. Carolyn turned over and saw the train administrator was stirring things up around town. However, they weren't working. Most train carriages didn't proceed, and one of them bounced the rails to the side, colliding with a wooden wall. The train then took a sharp turn and hit another train holding up in the boarding zone. Just after the accident, Carolyn and her companions stalled out in a somewhat flawless carriage 15 meters over the ground. 5 kids passed on in the calamity and 13 additional got serious injuries. Their thrill ride was not fixed, and the Battersea Fun Fair was shut 2 years after the fact. Consistently around 30,000 mishaps that outcome in injury, both minor and grave, occur in carnivals. Despite the fact that the business gathering addressing amusement stops and water parks says the chances of supporting serious wounds on an exciting ride in a normal U.S. entertainment mecca is 1 to 16 million. This risk ought to, in any case, not be disregarded. After all, the human component, flawed gear, or the dull longing to benefit off well-being can frequently prompt dangerous results. Assuming this video has ignited your advantage, raised a ruckus around town, and remember to buy into our channel in the event that you haven't done so as of now.